that going to happen for you? You know what I mean? Like, I want in that number. I want in that number. And it is the awakening. And it's the awakening that God is not separate. The earth is crying out for me. Whenever I was just, all right, God, when God was showing me that I would have been a patriot or a zealot, when I was telling you all the political things and religious systems that were going on in the earth when Yeshua came to the earth, and there was the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and there was the Romans, right? There were the Essenes and the Zealots and different groups, okay? They all had different roles, and they all played a part in the cosmos. The word world, when it means the orderly arrangement. It was the arrangement, all right. It was arrangement of man, but God's going to work with whatever we give him, right? I won't forget, Travis, don't let me forget. So he came within the arrangement. He needed the Romans. They played a really big part, didn't he? And he needed them to have a revelation. He needed the Pharisees and the Sadducees to have a revelation of who he was. He needed the people to say, crucify. He met man in their darkened state, right? None of them were an enemy to him. Even Judas, he said, you're my friend. He was playing a part for us. So that we could tell this story. And the story, honestly, you guys, has been told over and over. We won't go into it very much, but if you've ever studied, go back a few thousand years, even the whole story of Jesus was told through Horus and Isis and all of this stuff. It's been told over and over. It's God speaking to mankind within our level of understanding. But Jesus didn't join a group. That was all from the tree of knowledge. It was all temporary. It was all rooted in death. I don't think death is a negative. I think that the fact that the tree of knowledge wasn't eternal was a good thing. Because the tree of knowledge within man is the carnal man, the carnal mind. It's the place that we're creating, and we're creating some good things and some evil things. And I always say that it's not good or bad, it's good and bad. Okay, these systems, okay? It's not about just saying every system's, evil, and then, because from that place of resistance, we just create another system, okay? But it's recognizing there's only two trees. It's love and fear. It's life and knowledge. And from the tree of knowledge, you're always making a decision. Well, Jesus didn't come to judge the world. He didn't come to condemn the world. That word literally means he didn't come to make a decision what was good and bad. He didn't come to bring that kind of separation. The separation he brought was those that were living in the illusion and making it their reality, and those that were willing to see the truth. Isn't that crazy? So when God told me that I would have been, a few years ago, that I would have been one of the zealots, Peter, you zealot, you're going to live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. He had to show Peter, like, this is not a cause as you suppose, you know what I mean? Like, we're not overthrowing Rome. The kingdom isn't a physical thing. He's still trying to speak to his disciples that the kingdom's within. But when God told me that, I just remember saying, well, God, there's really things that aren't good happening in the world. I don't really watch the news. I very seldom even read stuff on Facebook. But I have a few daughters that I raised that keep me informed. Can you believe this is happening? They're going after our children, and And I'm thanking God that my oldest, who has her political science degree and was always called into that world, Josie, is waking up and getting upset, okay? That's the first thing. When you start coming out of the illusion, you're upset, okay? With what's going on in the world. So I'm like, God, there's a lot of things that are going on. Like, I don't want to be like just, I'm off peace, love, and joy. Let's go and just smoke doobies in the wilderness and not do anything for the earth. Like, I came here to leave a difference. And, there's something in our carnal mind. There's something in our ego self that thinks if we're worried about something, we're making a difference. But if you're worried about something, if you're concerned, it's the same energy as what's happening because it's from this tree. So if you're not anxious about the world, your mind would tell you that you don't care. Right? Like, you lose sleep, you're anxious, you're upset. And so I'm like, God, but I what do I do? I don't want to just be like, forget the world. I mean, part of the reason Darren and I were, so attracted to each other is we wanted to come and leave a difference for the next generation. His last name being Justice. And God just said, become your truest self. It's the light. I promise you, if you'll leave one illusion and come to him and start living in his reality, the answer will come and flow through you. Each one of us have we are each a different expression of God. There's an answer that we're bringing to the earth. And it's in the letting go, like there's some control that feels like, it's kind of like when you're pacing the floor over your kids, okay? Or something that's going on in the world. There's a letting go of that control, which moves you into a place of peace where you can hear. And I just trust Allah. I trust the Spirit of God enough that as I yield to the Spirit within me, I will hit the target for the reason I was born. The word sin and the word evil. The word sin, I think it's kata, I believe it, and bisha, evil. Those are archery terms. You guys may remember me talking about this. So they're like, shooting the arrow, and the guy says, sin, basically what we would say, a kata, like you didn't hit it. You didn't hit the mark. Now, we took it, we made everything about morality so that we can control everybody, so that the system can control us, so that we would feel guilty. We changed metanoia into repentance. It was paying penance to the church leaders. We made everything about guilt, and at least I'm a little more moral than Chris, so I'm doing better, The word for sin, or for evil, is bisha, I believe, which just means this is where you erred. This is how far you missed it. But they're all saying, try again. Even when another explanation of good and evil is ripe and overripe or underripe. It's God looking at mankind saying, they're not there yet. He's the potter, we're the clay. They might be in a lot of pain and doing a lot of turmoil, but his goal in making mankind is to make him perfect in his image and his likeness and to mature him. And he's good. He's that good. And somewhere we bought the lie that part ends when we leave this earth and we just enter into eternity. Because we didn't understand that the eternity is here. It's within us. A lot of people believe you come back to this place. Maybe this is the third grade, I thought. If you can't pass the third grade, maybe you're coming back. I don't know. But we know you go on living. We know, some of you I think I recognize from about 4 lives ago. We've been in the third grade way too long, right? It's time to get some of this stuff. I'm kidding. But some of the Jews, the sect, I need to just find another word. They believed in reincarnation. And that could be from our limited understanding, you guys. I don't know, but I know we go on living, and I know that he goes on shaping man in his image and likeness because he's that good. He's going to get it done. I know you think he's getting it done in you because you're helping him out so much. But it's his plan for all mankind. All right, y'all ready? Should I take an offering? See? Okay, yeah, let's do that real quick. If you'll go ahead and throw that up there. Thank you, Travis. We're still transitioning. We're changing. It's exciting. A lot of people are out of town. And I'll tell you guys a story about myself in a minute. 832-956-0150. Oh, look at our new usher. Thank you. If you still give by cash or check or diamond rings, raise your hand. I'm not saying that because I wear your diamond rings, because I really think they're rocks. I really do. We can sell them. Give them to somebody that likes them. Thank you guys for sewing into the message. This week, and you can just text the number up there and it'll get your information. Y'all, this week, here's my confession. You ready? A thought is a seed, and thoughts that just run through your mind, most of them are attached to this realm. Most of them are not yours, okay? Anybody else with the usher guys? Thank you guys for sewing into God's house. So a thought doesn't have power unless it takes root. Okay? We've been addicted to thought. We've been addicted that we think that they're all of ours. We've condemned ourselves and we've made ourselves feel great over thoughts that were attached to this realm. Literally, it's a space to lay down so that we can see. Okay? So when I was done speaking last week, I felt, And I'm not saying any of this. Please don't pet my ego. Anybody out there telling me I'm doing good or anything like that. So I didn't say it. But, usually whenever Darren and I, when he'd get done speaking, or we would dialogue, and man, this was what God was saying, and he'd be like, I should have stayed right there. The presence of God was on that. You dialogue. And it's been really good for me not to. A couple times I do with a few people. But even in that, it's just like I'm not looking for any answer outside myself. I want it here. But it was the way I felt, okay? So a seed is a thought is a seed once you feed feelings to it. Okay? That person was really rude. They don't care about me. That's a thought. Then you nurture it. You start nurturing it, it takes root. In your body, in your earth, okay? So without even saying anything, that was taking root in me, and I was really silent about it because I've loudly said I don't want to be the kind of person that needs something on the outside of me to tell me, like, if you go against the grain, if you're living by the Spirit within you and nobody agrees and you're brave enough to continue from that, that's what's going to get you burned at the stake. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Those are the kind of people. I told you I raised my kids, mainly Josie, because I was a little less redeemed at the time, on the voice of the martyrs. These are bedtime stories. Josie, do you understand there's more people that are being martyred right now than any other time in history? And we would read these stories and we'd pray for these kids, and they were, good night, baby, Let's give our life, But anyway, I very silently, but then what I began to experience through the week is this separation feeling, okay? Not being aware that I was the one making it reality. It was a thought. I nurtured it, and this is generally how I do. If I embarrass myself about something, I'll generally nurture it for a minute and then just get away from it, like, that wasn't me. Like, decompartmentalize it, right? But I didn't know that it had taken root until about yesterday. And because what happens then with those kind of thoughts, if I nurse them at all and they start taking root, then I want out. And wavering back and forth like, I didn't plan for this. Why do I have a microphone in my face? I want out, right? And go into hiding. And, that's been a struggle through this whole process with Darren leaving. Like, I didn't choose this, that kind of stuff. And so it wasn't until yesterday that I realized what had happened. And then I began to laugh. And not just laugh, I began to fall in love again. Just real quickly, the love that... just the flow, and I'm the answer. Not your answer, I'm the answer. Woo! Just like you are the answer, right? And I didn't realize that me nurturing that seed right then cut me off from that. Not really, but it cut my experience off because I began to make something else my reality. And that's what, I don't want to be doing this for, 500 years, where you're always letting God, God's showing you what needs to come up out of you. But that is a huge thing. When you start getting in the flow, you'll start seeing these lies that you nurtured and you made it a reality. They're like they're weeds, right? And that's not the goodie. That's not the big thing. That's the weed. Okay, literally, you guys, the terminology when in the New Testament was about God came to harvest mankind. Like, what the heck? Harvest. Like, mature us and harvest us. Like, we're here to grow, But meanwhile, we're like, who planted the seed? The devil came and planted the seed. Who was the devil? What was the seed? You're the devil. Your carnal mind planted the seed and nurtured it and made it the devil. I know that's painful. I did it subconsciously. If you didn't feel worthy as a child, there's this subconscious seed being planted. And no one can tell you you're worthy enough because it's now a belief system that's rooted in your life. And the Spirit within you will begin to root that up, especially as you see the circular the Spirit just flows. Because God's saying, I don't see where I end and you begin. You're literally an expression of me. We went to Florida, and a few of us got, we were like, let's get wave tattoos. I've never had a tattoo. And mine just says, I am the wave. And just right here. It's ugly. I kind of want to get it juiced up a little bit. Because I'm one of those people that I can walk right in to get a haircut and be like, how about that one? I don't care. And that's kind of what I did with the tattoo. And then I'm like, bummer, I'm 50 years old and I got a tattoo that I didn't plan for. Anyway, but the concept that I am the wave is you picture a wave comes up and it's this beautiful expression. It may be a ride, man. They're riding the wave, and then it goes back into the hole. And I begin to meditate that I'm an expression of God. And I see the God that's not separate from me and going through me. And I feel in my emotions, I feel like I'm separate. I feel depressed. I feel scared. I feel all these things that have been planted and I've nurtured. But even I don't even have to resist it. I can even smile at that like, bless your little heart. I know you feel that. And then come back into the reality of it. And literally the river within you will begin to push out the false realities. It's a river of light. It'll begin to you don't have to go for a witch hunt. You don't have to see where your belief system's wrong. You just go into that place where you're breathing and you're realizing that the Spirit of God is within every cell, every being, every part of who you are, and it drives out the devil. In perfect love, there is no darkness. There is no fear. It casts it out. Okay? There's only love and fear. As we're maturing in perfect love, as we're maturing in Christ, as we're living from this source, the fear, the illusion, fear doesn't just mean you feel afraid. Fear is the illusion. Fear is it's going really good, but it could end. It's good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. It's just conditional. That's what fear is. Some of you guys that were raised like in an alcoholic home or a parent that had an addictive behavior, maybe it was rage, okay? Christmas is going really good, but already in your subconscious, you're waiting for it to end. Okay, it's temporary. It's from this tree. Peace is temporary. Love is temporary. Joy is temporary. It's because it's sourced from here. And it's a belief system that's coming from the outside. Okay? But in maturity, as we're maturing, which this is what we're here to do, to be harvested, to be mature in perfect. That's another word for perfect. Jesus himself had to become perfect, had to grow into perfection, completeness. As we're maturing in agape, in nature, hupa, there is no fear. There's only joy. There's only peace. There's only light. There's only love. And it took me just like that. Because in the separation mindset, when I start panicking, I think I got to get something else that's good to say. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? As if I'm going to get revelation outside of me. Listen, you're not getting revelation from me. You're not getting revelation from a book. You're not getting revelation from a message. All of those are doors. They're constructs. These words that I'm forming that you're hearing, okay, it's not the burning within you. It's a door to it. Sometimes you just have to sit through it. I'm like, I don't know, but something in here. And you sit there. I don't know if that's right, but something in here. Did not our hearts burn within us? And it's in the sitting that you're able to go through the doors. Every construct is just a door. The word, literally, we said the word logos, Jesus, was a door. The physical Jesus was a door to another realm. It was a door to the airship, and a door to the understanding that we've never been separated. It's in Mel Gibson's words in Braveheart, you were free from the day you were born. All right. Are y'all ready? Are y'all out there? You good? You drinking this in? Listen, we're going to learn a whole lot more about breath, but the word rukah, spirit, is breath. Okay? So literally, I was telling Hunter this. When you're going through grief, anxiety, whatever it is, stress, anger, whatever, okay? and you need to be brought into the now. You literally put your thoughts on your breath. And it brings you into the now. I told Hunter today, I'm like, Hunter, when I would be feeling waves of grief and I don't know what to do with it, like you just feel completely brokenhearted, like what do? I would walk outside and I would receive the wind as if it was a drink of water or, just really expensive wine or, just receive it like, thank you. And I would watch the trees receive the wind and I would just join them. Or the sun, okay? When you're in that place of just, it pulls your mind into the now. And while you're training your mind that you're not going to rule me, you're not going to keep driving me forward and bringing me back. You're not going to cause me to always live in regret and cause me to think about what's coming in the future in fear. You're not going to rule. It's not that the mind is good or bad, the carnal mind. It's good and bad. It's attached to this realm. You're not going to rule. I'm not going to be led by you. I'm going to be led by the burning within me, right? And so I will just go and bring the mind back. And it's a practice. And there's beautiful teachings out there. Beautiful teachings. Get on YouTube. Get some meditations that'll silence the mind or something, just things like that, okay? So many answers you're going to begin to get because that's just in front. It's just like a little chatty woman, fourth grader. You can't learn anything because they're just, right? It's just in the way. Okay, so it's not the answer to learn to just live in the now. That's not the answer. That's the silencer. It's that place of peace. It's that place of depth. The answer that's within me begins to arise when I silence the mind. And so thank God that all these teachings and meditations and things that came forward. Because we have been a people led by the mind. And so as I'm saying, God, I want to do something. I want to leave the earth different. I want to, and he said, become your truest self. Then there's this level of trust because the mind wants to get something done, right? And the mind will tell you you're not doing anything to just sit in silence. But the word prayer, slutha, there's a few different ways to pronounce it, in Aramaic means attuned to, literally to set a trap. So when he said pray in this way, he wasn't giving them words. He wasn't giving them a construct. He's saying pray, that means attuned to. And literally later, and I've said this before, that whenever he was speaking and he prayed out loud, he said, listen, guys, I'm only saying this out loud because for you. I know my Father always hears me. Later he's like, me and my Father are one. The dude didn't have to say anything out his mouth, right? It was an attunement. That's what that word prayer means. Okay? So even when it says pray without ceasing, doesn't that make a little more sense? I think it's in Thessalonians or Timothy. Yes. Thessalonians. They're like warning them. They're telling them, like, there's this whole construct. The world is in chaos. They're killing Christians. Like, be careful. And they're talking to him. And he's like, pray without ceasing. Attune into that frequency and remain. And he's telling them in that day, it was so urgent for them to live from that space. In other words, how I would tell you today is learn to silence your mind, learn to come into the frequency of God, and just keep it. Hold it. Hold it. Practice. Practice it, practice it, practice it. When you're at work, practice it. When you're at play, practice it. When you realize your mind is going here and there and you're nurturing a feeling and you're making it reality because you're that powerful, pull it in and practice it. The attunement. Literally, that picture that I showed you is the attunement, like radio waves flowing through us. So last night, I laid down and I saw a balloon. This is you. Look how colorful you are. Those are all God's people. Well, not all. There's 10 of them. It's you first. I'm just kidding. And I'm hearing now, Allah is what the translation of God is in Aramaic. The word God is good, the good one. It's German. It's kind of shallow, actually. But we receive what we want to receive. So Allah is expanding us, is what I heard. God is expanding us. God is expanding us. It's not about leaving one belief system and joining another. It's about expansion. He's expanding you. Okay? So in it, understand that the expansion is more of a picture of breath, expansion, than it is making decisions. Okay? So what I wrote down is God is expanding in us. He's expanding in us, through us, and as us. God, I'm going to say this in first person, you can say it. God is expanding in me. God is expanding through me. And God is expanding as me. Think about that. The word that we're familiar with in the scripture is multiplying himself. Now here we go, listen to this. And then I'm just picturing these balloons, Adam, or mankind, or we, you, your little thumbprint that no one else has, you beautiful little creation, you creation of God that only you are, okay? You are expanding in God. You are expanding through God. You ready for this one? And you are expanding as God. God, Allah, is expanding in us, through us, and as us. The extension of God. Now, I know your mind tells you that, because your mind has tried to define who you are, but you're not even. That's why he renamed the disciples. People call you this. Your mama got it wrong. I'm going to call you this. You know what I mean? That's why it's okay, even in the laying down of your thoughts, is to lay down who you think you are. I'm an expression of God. And then when you operate out of rhythm of that expression, you just change your mind. He's not sweating it. Come up higher, my beloved. Come up here and see what I see. Those are the songs that Josie wrote that song. So in Thessalonians it says, beware lest any one of you reward evil for evil. Here we go. But always run after good with each other and every person. Verse 16, 1 Thessalonians 5:16. Rejoice at all times. Pray, set a trap for God. Set a trap in your mind and wait patiently to catch the thoughts of God. Set an inner trap, inner guidance, inner impulses, attentiveness and adjustment. Tune in without ceasing. Verse 18, give thanks in everything. Listen to this, y'all. Give thanks. Let's see what this says. Give thanks. That word thanks, you know what it means in Aramaic? Not thanks. It doesn't mean that when somebody's beating the hell out of you, thank you, God. When Uncle Jimmy did what he did to you, thank you, God. That's not what it means. We've gotten twisted in that stuff, okay? That word thanks, is yada. It means to confess, take control, accept responsibility. Attune in to God without ceasing and accept responsibility for what you're producing. That kind of makes me mad a little bit. It's from the word yod, which is hand. At your hand, nothing is random. Attune in to God without ceasing and realize nothing is random. Realize what you're producing in the earth is on purpose from the God you. You are taking responsibility. Take responsibility in everything that you create. For this is the will of Allah, Yeshua the Messiah among you. Do not quench the Spirit. Whatever you do, don't stop the Spirit. Don't stop the flow of God. Allah is expanding in you and through you and as you. Don't stop it. And then understand when the miracles, when the supernatural, when things started, first a lot of times people's lives get out of whack because you've lived by one system and you start messing up the family system. It's like a machine. We all have these certain buttons. This is how our machine's supposed to work. All of a sudden you start flowing from a different source and everybody's mad at you. And you're like, what? And you're trying to love and you think you're being tested, right? But there's a machine in every system. This is why you guys do understand that natural medicine came first. And you do understand, I wrote it all down, I don't know the names, but they went to the colleges, big pharma at the time, and began to sell them certain, basically give them money for their college to teach that these drugs are what you need. Okay? Not only that, that's not my point. The point then is the natural became The holistic were the weirdos. It became a narrative. It's a system, okay, that we have to keep in control. And here in Thessalonians, I believe it's Paul is writing, and he's like, stay in attunement, take responsibility. Just continually stay in attunement. Understand that what's happening around you, be responsible. Like you're creating it, okay? It might be crazy at first. For this is the will of God. Let's see. And here's how I know, okay? So you go up one verse when it says, beware lest anyone, 5:15, beware lest any one of you reward evil for evil, but always run after the good. Follow the good. Be in harmony with what is right. So in other words, he's warning them the whole thing. If you go up and read the whole thing, he's warning them, don't engage in the temporary. It's kind of like when you first go into Mexico and you get off the plane and you're coaching somebody when they go in there. You're like, put your sunglasses on. Don't look at anybody. Everyone's going to offer you a ride or going to try and sell you something. Don't get pulled away, right? And so then you're ready. You're ready. I mean, you don't have to wear sunglasses, but if you don't want to make eye contact and feel like a big loser, so you put sunglasses on and you walk through and they're going, hey, come. They're selling you this, they're selling you that. That's what the world is doing. Come down and reason with me. Oh, pick a side. You think it's good? You think it's bad? Oh, you're doing it, right? And he's saying, stay in attunement with God. Understand that you're the one creating. Take responsibility for what you're creating. And above it, it's like, stay in harmony with what's good. Does that make sense? Are y'all out there? Are y'all just drinking it in? So as I'm thinking how God's expanding us, you guys know when Isaiah said, for Isaiah 9:6, if you want to throw it up there, you can. For unto us a child is born, a son is given, the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father. Jesus called Father? Weird. Prince of Peace. Verse 7, of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne. It goes on. Let's go back to the beginning. Isaiah 9:6, for unto us a child is born, a son, a youth, one that is a young one. It is born, and a son is given, an heir. An heir to what? Heaven's heir was given to the earth as the firstborn. The builder of the family name, your big brother, your husband, all this language came. The first of who you are, the Christ man, was given to the earth. It was an example of who you are, and you get to follow in his footsteps, not separate from him. Come on now, we know we're not God separate from him. We know what we can create separate from him. But he's expanding himself in us. The reason I was meditating on this, the government will be on his shoulders. You get this idea of strong shoulders, the heavy shoulders that can carry a big weight. And that's a term that we use. It was an idiom back then as well. Like a yoke on the shoulders. Like, what can you carry? The government of God, the way heaven rules, is he's carrying it. The Christ man is carrying it on his shoulders. I'm talking about you. The heirship. Heaven. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. God is expanding, and that word government is his empire. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. As you've seen me, you've seen the Father. As the world sees you, and we're living in attunement, they see the expansion of Father. Not you trying to be like Father, you attuning into Father, and they see Father. They begin to awaken after we awaken that there is no separation. We don't have to preach. We don't have to say anything. They begin to realize that was it not Christ that was with like what? Who are we with? They begin to awaken up to their identity. Man, I remember different times I would be listening to someone. Was it David Hogan? You guys remember David Hogan? I mean, this is 99. We're listening to him upstairs, and we lived in Houston at the time. And the guy's sitting there telling all these stories. Just Google him. He's pretty hardcore, but he's talking about miracles and stuff. And I mean, I'm up pacing. I'm mad. I'm so mad. I'm like, that's available? Are you kidding me? That's available? Because you realize you don't know who to blame. Ego wants to blame somebody. You don't realize that it's your thoughts of separation that's created your reality, that you got to get somewhere. What's happening, this is what's so beautiful, what's happening with us, you guys, is the separation is leaving because we're willing to not believe our thoughts. There wasn't a gulf. There was never a gulf between us and God. But when you begin to see what's available, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, of the greatness of his government, or the increase, the abundance. His government is expanding in us. It'll say there will be no end, there will be no limit. There will be no limit. So the picture I was getting, as I'm thinking about balloons, is like this being our vessel here, right? This vessel, okay? We'll see what I do here. The Spirit is the word breath. And God's breathing life into us. He's expanding us. Some of us are fatter than others, right? And he's breathing his life. And we're breathing him in. This guy, he keeps saying, he goes, are you breathing or are you being breathed? He didn't give you his life once. He's given you breath now. Isn't it insane? I don't care how hideous somebody is acting. If they have breath in their lungs, it's God's breath. There's only one Spirit. There's only one breath. I mean, we have thought so crazy, guys. Come on now. It's okay if you don't understand what I'm saying right now because we've been so conditioned. But I wasn't a church person at first, so I had to learn it all, okay? So there's this really awesome God. He loves me with everything. I mean, I'm experiencing him. I'm experiencing his love. He just adores. He'll never quit loving you unless you don't love him back. Then he has this pit out back, and you're going to fry in this pit. And he's not as gracious as Hitler, because Hitler has an end. You'll die in Hitler's pit. But in this guy's pit, if you don't love him back, you're going to eternally burn. Oh, but he's so awesome. He's awesome. Oh, but here's the other one. You got there by mistake. He made that for the demons. Like, I'm so sorry. I have a pit out back, and it's on fire. It's just for the demons. It's just for the people that really hate me. I did not mean for Joni to go walking in the backyard and accidentally fall into the pit. You know what I'm saying? So then we believe that God is everywhere, and we're like, even the psalmist says that when I go into the depths of hell, there you are. Well, what a psycho. He's standing in hell while you're burning? I'm talking, listen to me. This is a mindset of someone that wasn't from church. You guys that have been conditioned in this, but is that not crazy? He's like this really aggressive stalker. He's waiting for you outside your window. If you'll just turn and look, I will love you forever. But if you don't love me, I'd rather take your life, you know. Anyway. So most of the time, it wasn't a matter of doctrine for me as much as what I was being taught wasn't in rhythm, in harmony with what I knew of God. And I was okay not defining it. I'm not trying to define it for you. I'm just trying to get us to think. I mean, it makes more sense to me that the darkness, that we're creating it out of a darkened mind. The only way that when my eyes are open that I have any darkness in my life is when I turn away from the light. When it said hide your light under a bushel, you remember the bushel, and it said that was what they used to measure things out with. Okay, so we brought the fragmentation in. We are the light of the world. We're the city on the hill. We're the salt of the earth, okay? But then we brought the fragmentation in. I need God here, and I've seen how God just flows, and I've seen miracles here, but I'm really good here, here, and here. That's the fragmentation, okay? That's us. The ego, listen, the ego can stay in place and get prayers answered. I mean, that's fine if that's what you want, okay? But I'm a lover, man. I fell in love with him. The more I know, the more I realize that he's only good, that he's all in all, that he's everywhere, that he's all through me, that he's only happy with me, that he's transforming me exactly into who I can't wait to see who I'm becoming. I can't wait to see who I already was. I believed the lie for so long. This is amazing. Like, you're going to look at your own self in the mirror and go, well, it's not Christ within them. You know what I mean? You're like, who is that? It's glorious. It was his plan, not mine. It was his plan for you. And the only thing that stopped the plan is when I tried to do it for him or separate from him, right? So then I'm just picturing that he's breathing into us and we're expanding, I won't pop that. And I'm seeing the Spirit of God expand our thinking, expand our reality, expand our revelation, expand who we are in the earth, right? And then there is a day where you don't need this anymore. We get expanded to the degree that this isn't the thing. And you return back to breath. But here's the deal, you were always breath. Remember? Matter is dense energy. It's still energy. It's all the same. This makes me mad too, you guys, when you first begin to hear it, because I don't know if it's making you mad. You guys are like, we're way beyond mad. What do you mean there's not evil? What do you mean? Are you trying to tell me that there's not right and wrong? Is that what you're trying to tell? That's the kind of thoughts I'm having as I'm learning about living neutral. What do you mean, God? Like, what do you mean? We got to stand for something. I have we did a march, and we lived in Detroit. And Josie's little, poor little Josie. We have all the abortion signs, I'm not saying that any of that's right or wrong. I'm not saying it. Okay, but that's where I came out of this in the sense of we got to fight for it. But it's kind of like the little Dutch boy keeping his finger in the dam. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like there's this sinking ship. Like, what do we do for America? Why the heck are we here if it's not to fully become Christ? If it's not to fully, release the answer? Like, what do we do? Just watch the news? Like, I am irritated when people don't give a crap. Because I want to give a crap. If it was your kid, you know what I mean? I want to love people as if they're my kids. But it's not about wringing my hands and just pacing the floor. So what do you want me to do, God? Become your truest self. You are the Christ in the earth. Realize it. You can't be stopped. From where I'm standing, Jesus said there was an evil. All evil was overcome with good. They're trying to throw me off a cliff. I just move with the Spirit. Everywhere I go, there's miracles. I'm not even high-fiving myself because they call them miracles, but I'm just living from another space. I'm not longing for it. When I longed for it, and I have longed for it, it's because I don't have it. I don't think I have it. We're not longing for it. We're awakening to the fact that it's in us. And then as we're releasing it, it could be Karuna, can I tell about you? Karuna is an abstract art. It's beautiful, and she writes scriptures in it, but she's very intentional, and there's prophecy going in her creations. Even as I was seeing her do that today, I was seeing that these paintings that go in these houses are transforming people. And what I heard is she's going to begin to hear things and understand it's coming from that house. Like, she's prophesying a part of her essence is being going in these homes. You want to tell the other part? Yeah, come here. In other words, when you begin to attune, what you do isn't separate from you.
We were praying beforehand in the other room. And so today I had an open studio. And for the last couple of weeks, God's been actually bringing me back to speaking out some affirmations. And I've been doing this on and off for a couple years, but not fully from a place of understanding who I am. more from a place of, oh, yeah, speak this out and you'll get this, and so going back and forth with that. But these last couple weeks, and the world is talking about manifestation. Everyone is speaking about manifesting things on the earth. And, Peter and I have been talking a lot lately. Stuff's gone on with my family and just, like, what do we really care about? What really matters in the end? What do I want my life to be about? And I've gotten to, and, I realized, Lord, I don't really care about, money's just a number. Who really cares ultimately about that? But these last couple weeks, God's been telling me, encouraging me to keep speaking out these affirmations because you need to know who you are. It's about understanding your identity. I'm a creator. I created you. You're a creator. You need to understand who you are as a child of God. So one of the ones that I say is we make at least $5,000 in sales per month. Today at my open studio, I sold 5 paintings for exactly $5,000. And the amazing thing is, I was telling Sheila, I didn't even feel like excitement or a high when they came in and they purchased it. I was like, oh, okay. So the first couple came in. They own a small law firm. They bought 3 paintings. And Laura, what was that phrase you were saying, Laura?
I think it's from the Psalms, and it says, when the morning star appears, the night is gone.
When the morning star appears, the night is gone. She was speaking that out over, as we were praying in there, that's one of the things she was hearing and being reminded, she said that. And then I told them afterwards, one of the paintings I sold that is going to be in this law firm is called Morning Star. That's what excites me. And that's God's like, and when Sheila said that, it's like, that's what this is about. Mm-hmm. That's part of your identity that's going forth.
Yeah. That's the practice. Yeah. That's the practice. And as she's yielding to her Christ self, the God within her, lives are being changed. And she wouldn't even know fully, right? Because you're releasing it. You're releasing the light. So where can you practice? Where can you practice? Where can you practice? Okay, let's look at another scripture here. 1 Timothy 6:6. Here's Paul again giving him, he's speaking into their life, speaking into their life, speaking into their life, because the day that they're living in, it was very controversial. They're still alive within the 40 years. They were still sacrificing in the temple. The temple was still erected. They were still doing all the worship within the temple. These guys are preaching the gospel. The temple came down in 70 AD. Darren really did really amazing teaching on that. And so they are everywhere they go, they're in crossfire. Everything they're teaching, especially Paul, man, he kept coming forward and he'd have to retell them who I am because he wasn't the original and he was speaking to the Gentiles and he was saying, you don't have to do it the Jewish way, right? So this is the atmosphere. And Paul's talking to Timothy. They're really intimate letters whenever he's talking to his son, Timothy. 1 Timothy 6:1. Or 6:6, we'll look at that. He goes on, he's talking about servanthood, slavery, master, going on and on. Let me first read this. Well, I'll first read it in, I think it's NIV. For our profit is great. Now, we're talking about 2 realms. 1 Timothy 6:6. For our profit is great, which is the worship of Allah, the worship of God, while having the necessities, for we have enough. That word profit is our gain. It's a route that brings profit or gain, okay? Verse 7, we have brought nothing into this world, we can take nothing out of it. I mean, that says it all. It's ruled out by definition. It shuts the door. There's no exception. You came into the earth as a being of light, as an expression of God. You didn't have anything with you. I know we say that, but let's just think about it. We're not going to leave with anything. Okay? But we are expanding. We are being matured. You're not coming into the world in the same state that you left the world. Okay? You're being matured in your awareness of God. We know that we can take nothing out of it. Verse 8, because of this, food and clothing is enough, but those who desire to be rich fall into temptation. So what we did with these scriptures is we made people feel guilty for wanting things in this earth. You know, come on, that's like the lilies of the field. It's just part of it. You can have as much as you want. It's all here for you, just as you are awakened to the fact that nothing is going with you. There's no fear attached to it, right? So then he goes on to say, verse 9, but those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and into traps, into many foolish and harmful desires, and they sink the children of men into corruption and destruction, okay? That's the NIV. That's the way we preached it. Like, if you're just wanting riches, that means you're full of greed, you're going to fall into temptation. The word temptation in Aramaic means forgetfulness. Think about it. Jesus was led into the wilderness. I believe that word for wilderness is Madra, I believe that's correct. And that it can be a place outside the city that's like a desert. It can be that. And our mind thought it was a physical thing because it's all our mind knows to do, right? It thinks in 2D. But also the word wilderness, when Jesus was led, it's a raw, vulnerable, unprotected state of being. Has anyone experienced the wilderness? That's when you don't know what you believe. You don't know what ends up. All you know is you have the breath, the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, that word holy, the spacious, all-inclusive, the Spirit of God, the breath of God brought him to a vulnerable state in his consciousness. Brought him to a state where he didn't know anything but the breath. And in fact, when it talks about the meek and being poor in spirit, that when you start breaking down being poor in spirit, it's understanding that all you have is breath. It's understanding the richness of the Spirit. It's beginning to put your value, that the word glory is weight. It's value. You put weight. You put value on the breath, the breath of God, and that's it. It's the first thing that's driving me. It's the first thing that I see. It's from that yielded space that I begin to create. It's from that yielded space that I'm praying without ceasing. I'm attuning into something, and I don't stop. I can't be stopped. You can't stop God. Even with those that mean to harm you, it's all things work together for the good for those that are in attunement with that Spirit. There's no resistance. There's no wringing of the hands. There's only God. So the word temptation, here he said Jesus was led into temptation, but then it says to pray, and when it says the Lord's Prayer, pray not that you're led into temptation. Isn't that weird? The word temptation is forgetfulness. It should be reread a little bit closer to this. Do not let us enter into forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of what? Do not let us enter into this world where we think this is the reality, where we feel like we can lose and we can win. Listen, competition is from this world. If I win, doesn't mean you lose. If you lose, it doesn't mean I win. Think about it. I know that sounds so obvious, but women, if a woman that you think that may intimidate you in her beauty walks in the room, we have an automatically thinking in this carnal mind that it takes away from your beauty. Okay? If somebody more intelligent, I mean, this is what we've talked about in the guys' locker room, not to be rude, but come on, it's all about who's at the top. It's all from this world. So then your mind tells you that you're winning or you're losing. You can't win or lose with God. You can't. That's a whole different energy. You only are. You only are abundant. You're not going to stop. You're ongoing. You're transforming the earth. You're literally the one transforming the earth as you're living in attunement and allowing that light to come through you. Nothing can intimidate you from this space. There is no fear. There's no lack. There's no loss. It's all interpreted through the Spirit. He said, don't lead me in, he said, pray like this, don't lead me into forgetfulness. Make sure I don't forget. All we're doing is remembering. I don't want to forget, man. I see this pure consciousness. I see that it's pure light. It's a world that my mind can never define. Why is it foreign to my mind? It's because I made this a reality, and I was addicted to the reality that I created. Men loved darkness. That's why they stayed away from the light. It wasn't about morality. It's about you like what you created. Fire. I created fire. You didn't create fire, dude. You're just on an island off by yourself and with Mr. Wilson. Fire was created long before you had breath. What was that movie? Castaway. There you go. Separation. Lead me not into forgetfulness. Don't let me get, that was the same warning that he's saying to them right here. Timothy's talking to him. He said, verse 9, 1 Timothy 6:9, those who desire to be rich, they fall into forgetfulness. They want to gain only what's in this earth, and they forget that there is no gain and there is no loss, that you only have your breath. And he's warning them, like, live from this reality, attune into this, pray without ceasing, he's saying to the Thessalonians. What that means is keep in your awareness the only thing that's true, the only thing that's real. There is only God. Everything else we're creating is part of the illusion. What do you think at the end when it talks about the weeping and gnashing of teeth? Like, what? So it's not bad that I want to get something done while I'm here. But if I'm trying to do it within myself, out of the energy of fear, it's all going to be temporal anyway. It's exactly like our politics in America. I promise you it's going to swing over here again. I promise you we're going to get another judge in, that this side is going to be like, they are awful. I can't believe that this person is this way. I mean, our politics say it beautifully. It's just swinging back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm not saying don't care, okay, but you don't pick a side. Keep attuning. Keep attuning. Your mind is going to accuse you of forgetting. Your mind is going to accuse you of not caring. But it's in the attunement that you remember who you are. It's in the remembrance that you become and you manifest, I'll say, Christ. What would Jesus do? He would have to, I'll tell you what Jesus would do. He would learn obedience through the things that he suffered. And he'd become perfected. And once complete, when his Father decides, he becomes the door for eternal salvation. That's what he would do. That's our path, guys. That's our path. Enjoy the suffering in your mind. Enjoy it. At least you know it's there. When people are just living completely in the illusion and they think it's real, man. I had somebody, that I loved, but they'd been married a few times for years. And I remember the third time. I think the third time now it's 4, and I'm not condemning it, okay? But I'm just telling you the way of thinking. And they're pretty old now at this point, and they said they met their soulmate. I'm like, really? You had 5 kids with the first one? That wasn't your soulmate? But, I mean, it just makes you really sad. Will you please turn the air conditioner up or make it cooler? It makes you really sad that you're in your 80s and you're still living in the illusion. Like, look in the mirror, man. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? We're not here that long. I look in the mirror, I'm not here that long. Not to panic, but what an opportunity you have, right? Kay is going to graduate. When are you graduating? May? She's graduating. Didn't know anything about the Bible, right? Married a pastor at one time. He was a pastor. And now she's going to Bible school. And you're graduating in 2 months? She said, if I can do it. I'm like, you're doing it. And she said she won't stop there. It's awesome. We only have so much time. These guys drive from Waco 4 hours to be here. They get it. They get it. Not to hear me, to be with us, to join the light and let the light flow when you're being transformed. What an honor. What an honor. So Timothy, 1 Timothy 6:9, but those who desire to rich, they fall into forgetfulness, into traps. That's like that word is a trap for a bird. And many foolish, I don't know if it says foolish up there, I don't think it's up there, who snare, many senseless and harmful. That word is senseless. That means unthinking, not understanding, darkened mind. Foolish and harmful desires. I understand that they're desires, but you're not understanding. They're coming from the darkened mind, and they plunge. That word plunge means they drown people. They drown people into ruin and destruction. That sounds like eternal hell because that's how they languaged it, okay? But that word destruction, it just means it's perishing. It changes forms, okay? It means it's attached to this tree. And he's warning them. We made everything about that. Okay, I'm almost done. Verse 10. But the root of all these evils, what is evil? You didn't hit it. Bisha. Try again. You didn't even hit the target. Like, you're way off, dude. That's evil. Okay? The root of all of it, the root of forgetfulness, the root of not hitting the mark, the root of missing the reason you're on the earth. Okay? Not evil in the sense of I'm stabbing people at night and I'm, burying kittens under the porch, okay? Or whatever. We made everything moral. The root of forgetfulness, I know, you that love cats, okay, is the love of money. Does that say love of money? The love of money. The word money there is, I think in Greek, it's avarice. Is that right? Avarice, if I'm saying it right. In Aramaic, it's kespa. It is silver. It can mean money. But what that whole thing is pointing to is if you're gonna be in forgetfulness, you're caught up in destruction. It's an unfoolish thing. You think that that's all there is. The root of it is the love of loss and gain. The love of temporal gains and losses. Mammon. Mammon, we're learning in the thing, it has a voice, the love of money, kespa. Kespa. It's what makes this world go around. It's not just coins in your pocket. It's, are you whole or are you going to be whole? Do you have the car that you need? Is what you need outside of you? Is your healing coming? Or are you realizing that you're already whole? Is abundance coming to you? Even the law of attraction, the obvious thing in that is when you begin to believe in the law of attraction, which is correct, in this realm, you realize that you're also coming into agreement that it's something you don't have. There's a deeper place than the law of attraction. Excuse me for spitting. It's understanding that abundance has always been in you, that you believed the foolishness, the root of all evil, of missing the mark, is believing the foolishness that you could gain anything, that you could lose anything. I'm complete with the man. I'm incomplete if I don't have it. I'm complete when. That's what kespa, the love of money. It's something tangible. It's physical. I will be better then. It's what makes this world, it's what makes this world go around and around and around. Do you understand what he's saying? You're going to fall in verse 9. Those who desire the wealth and what's going to pay things off and what's going to make their life better, and even the next teaching that's what you're understanding isn't on the outside of you. What you're hearing is on the inside of you. And I promise every one of you are seeing and hearing something different right now. It's not somebody giving it to you. Somebody could say it, but then you have to enter that door. Then you realize that it was always in you. What we want to do here at God's house is to awaken you up to you, man. You're living like you're foolish. You're living in forgetfulness. That's why you're living less than who you are. You somehow have bought into the lie that there's something else. We even made doctrine around it. That's why Darren just hammered the rapture. We're still praying for God to come do something. Prayer is you attuning into God and you doing it. It's your expanding, your expansion. It's you shouldering the government of God. He came as us. We're here to expand. I don't know where I started saying man. It sounds kind of cool. I think I'm really cool when I say it. but I also don't like it, so I don't know. Those who desire to be rich, they fall into forgetfulness, verse 9, and into traps. That's like a trap like a bird. And they do many these foolish and harmful desires. They begin to sink. They drown the children of men in the death, in the temporary, in the destruction, verse 10. But the root of all of this missing the mark, is the love of gain. The love that I've got to get it. It's competition, guys. It's competition. Think about it. Your mind thinks you're winning when you're doing good. You leave a conference and man, God moves and you think you're so holy and beautiful, and then you get caught up in porn and you think you're the low scum of the earth. And then you have a high and a low high, and it's all from here. It's all BS. It's from your belief system. God only sees you one way, and it's been fluid, and it's been the light of the world, no matter the behavior. Once we realize this, I promise you the behavior changes. And listen, the answer to all these people that are struggling in their identity is for you to quit struggling in your identity and to come into the truth of who you are and release that presence in the earth. Alignment will happen. We don't have to judge it. Come on, it's biology, people. Do you think we need to gather around? It's not rocket science for us to see if a man that can't ministrate should be in a woman's swimming team or whatever. Like, I don't even have to enter into that conversation, right? Like, we're confused because we're here. What's good? What's evil? And we could laugh at that one, but we went to sleep when they called murder abortion. We went to sleep. When there's only life. When there's only life. We're here to breathe life, man. To receive and breathe and release life into the earth. Mankind is being awakened as you're awakened. You are attached. You are part of the whole. Erin messaged me. She said, a guy's teaching on nature. He's teaching on nature, physical, that 1.01%. And he said literally, and he's talking about science, literally, we're all one. We're all part of the whole. Not just spiritually, on a literal level as well. That means I am the one in conflict with you. I can't judge you when there's a war going on in me. Right? But I can move into righteousness. I can move into the truth who I am, and from here, I can govern and release life. There's no more sides. So he's telling them that the love of the loss and gain, the love of the finances that you think, or the commerce that you think, or what's going to give your life value, the love of that. If you bought into the lie that there's something else that needs to happen and then you'll feel valuable, you're buying into the lie of the carnal mind. You're completely whole now. Your mind doesn't believe that. That's okay. That's why we're breathing it in. Nothing missing, nothing lacking. And then this is what I begin to do. I had someone message me. Sometimes I'm kind of naive. And this person, I guess they were telling me about a drug. Or something that you can do and get this high. I don't know. Anyway, and I didn't catch that it was a physical drug. I said, I know what you mean, man. See how cool I was? I didn't say that. I said, I know what you mean. I said, I've had experiences with God that were better than when I did ecstasy. I mean, they were better. And ecstasy was good. And I'm telling him this. I think I said crank. Crank wasn't that good, but it was fine. I'm saying it in the sense like everything outside of you is in you. What you're seeking for is who's seeking. Remember what I said last week? The one who is looking is the one. Turn around, turn within. And we're learning. There's no condemnation if you're taking the pill, if you're doing the whatever, whether it's legal, I don't know, all this different stuff. That's fine. I'm not condemning it. I'm not resisting it. I'm not condemning it. But what I'm telling you is it's already there. I'm telling you that the pills that we're taking that are on the outside of us, the remedy, how do you think it got on the outside of us? It came from the inside of man, and they created it on the outside. So we're awakening to the fact that it's there. Caffeine, even down to food. Why do you think that Jesus was like, well, I don't even need food? It's all from this earth. That's why I was just like, wanted to meet Kirby so much, because he went for the jugular. The point that we don't even need food. What do you think a breatharian is? They breathe. An awareness of breath. The breath is enough. Breath is sustaining the whole universe. All the planets are being upheld by breath. In our language, spirit. It's enough. It's not from the outside of you. It's from within you. And it's flowing through you. The river, remember the R3, the river runs, is received and released. The river is received and released. I don't know, what do you guys want to do?